It's the first day. The goal is no longer to get oriented, but to calibrate the environment. In high-performance academia, your arrival is an event that creates uncertainty for the group. The pressure isn't about the language. It's about your capacity for interdependence. All individuals in the group must quickly decide, can we trust your expertise? Are you a reliable resource? Organizational sociologist Deborah Meyerson and colleagues developed the theory of swift trust. These forms of trust is crucial in temporary organizational systems or in complex project teams like a laboratory, where people must collaborate without a personal history. Swift trust requires that confidence be initially granted cognitively and impersonally, based on the perception of competence and role, not friendship. Today, on Spiegelblick, we will turn the first day into a deliberate strategy to activate that swift trust. We'll put the do and the aside to talk about scientific capital as currency. The newcomer's mistake is trying to generate effective trust based on warmth in an environment that operates on cognition-based trust based on capability. For a postdoc, the goal is not to be liked, it's to appear to be an indispensable peer. And precisely, that scientific capital is immediately put to test. Our first key point: how that trust is built in the first few minutes. This begins with the introduction. Your nonverbal language is key, but not just the handshake. As nonverbal communication studies indicate, the use of space and eye contact are cultural modulator of power and respect. In the German low-context academic environment, sustained eye contact, far from being aggressive, is perceived as a sign of integrity and professional focus. Your posture must project the role you have been assigned, because swift trust relies heavily on role-based trust and the fulfillment of the implicit expectation of the title, doctor, postdoc, PI. Once this foundation of competence is established, the next frontier is protocol. Now formality. The only real communication barrier remaining is sociolinguistic, and it is concentrated in two words, do and the. The meaning is purely structural. Researcher Karen Bishing analyzed the contrast on the du and sie pronouns in French and German. Her work confirms that sie acts as a sociolinguistic marker of power, distance, and formality. The rule is simple, but violating it is strategic. It's never your place to initiate the switch from sie to do. Accepting formality initially is a demonstration that you understand the hierarchical code and respect the playing field. This respect for the habitus is the first sign of reliability. Finally, if asked whether you are a postdoc, a PI, or a PhD, do not give a vague answer. Don't say, my work is about cancer. Say, my work focuses on the p53 pathway uncoupling in resistant tumor cells using mass spectrometry. This technical precision is the anchor that solidifies cognition-based trust. Having successfully navigated the formal introduction and the code of address, let's change scenes. Let's leave the main office, because the real action, the politics, is brewing where the aroma is strongest. Let's talk about the Kaffepause. The Kaffepause is the nerve center of organizational politics in academia. The researcher who avoids coffee because they are too busy is actively forfeiting the accumulation of social capital and vital information. The reason is simple. Studies on organizational politics, such as those by Jeffrey Pfeffer, define these dynamics as the use of power and social influence to achieve objectives, often manifesting in informal networks. These networks are built over coffee. The cafeteria is not the place for rest. It is the center for mapping the shadow hierarchy. This brings us to the shadow hierarchy. The official organization chart signs your papers. The real hierarchy controls the flow of your research. This forces us to reconsider power. The most serious strategic mistake of a senior researcher is underestimating the support staff. The technische Assistentin, technical assistant, or the chief administrator are in practice the resource gatekeepers. They possess immense power derived from institutional expertise. They know how to bypass a bottleneck, who to call in case of equipment failure, and how internal budgets actually work. So, how do we strategically interact with these resource gatekeepers? The answer lies in informational proactivity tactics. Organizational socialization models, such as those proposed by Morrison, identify multiple proactive tactics a newcomer can use, the most critical being information seeking. Technical, referent, normative, and especially political information. The coffee break is the place to use indirect research tactics. Instead of asking the boss, "How do I manage my budget?" ask a colleague at the coffee break, who's the person in the finance department who processes complex requests fastest. That is high-value information. Establishing networking ties in the Kaffeepause is one of the proactive tactics that has been shown to have a significant positive relationship with newcomer judgment and performance in the organization. We have established the diagnosis. Now the practical application. To conclude, I give you the 3 essential actions guidelines. For the researcher, PhD postdoc, the Autonomy Triad. Number 1. Positive framing. One of the most subtle proactive tactics. If you face a problem, instead of complaining, present it as a methodological challenge that your expertise can overcome. This positions you in a framework of cognitive control, showing that you view obstacles through a solution-oriented lens. Number 2. Proactive role definition. Don't wait for your supervisor to define your work. Prepare a 90-day objective proposal and present it. This not only gives you control over your learning curve, but also demonstrates the autonomy of action expected of a PhD. In context with high-speed trust, strong, proactive, and generative actions are what reinforce confidence. And number 3. Resource diplomacy. Always prioritize contact with the resource gatekeepers. If you need equipment, first ask the lab technician how they prefer the request to be formulated and what documentation is required. These actions reduces your risk of being perceived as a burden and accelerate your access to assets. These are the tools for the researcher, but leadership also plays its part. Let's move to the perspective of the professor or supervisor and how they should manage institutional socialization. For the PI or supervisor, investment in institutional socialization. First, investiture-based integration. Van Maanen and Schein's socialization model classifies socialization as individualized or institutionalized. Investiture socialization affirms the newcomer's identity and attributes. In the first meeting, you must introduce the new member by asserting the initial high value. Dr. David Pearce will help us with this unique knowledge in X, which is exactly what our group needs for Objective Y. Second, a structured informal mentoring. Assign an informal mentor, but not to guide their work. That's their autonomy, but to break down the informal politics and unwritten procedure of the group. Number 3. Political transparency. Address sensitive topics from the start: authorships, resource access, and conflict management. Reducing uncertainty in these areas decreases the perception of negative organizational politics, which has been shown to reduce job satisfaction and performance among academic staff. With these tactics, you establish a foundation of value and competence. You have overcome the challenge of the first day. But, and here's the key question, what happens when the demands of work do not stop at a culturally defined time? Is an email from the boss at 10 p.m. a signal that you must respond or a sign of German time indiscipline? In our next episode, we'll tackle a major myth: German efficiency. Is it real or just a legend? And most importantly, we'll talk about how to negotiate work-life balance within this system to protect your mental health without risking your professional reputation. For you, PhDs and postdocs, tell us what was the biggest surprise on your first days in the lab. For you, professors and supervisors, what strategy has worked best for you to integrate a new member? Leave your comments and subscribe so you don't miss any episode. And if there is a topic driving you crazy, suggest it to us. Thank you for listening. Auf Wiederhören.